That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back, yes. Episode 271. Wow, 271. Who would have thunk? Not me, just kidding. I did kind of know. But without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callahan, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way in St. Cloud, Minnesota at Granite City Studios, Paul Vold. Shield, what's going on there, Shield?
Dude, we are just days away from the big game and all the talk, all the chatter about who's going to win this big game coming up on Sunday, and it's not looking favorable to the team that adorns my head here and will be adorning coming up on Sunday. No ifs, ands, or buts about who I'm going to be cheering for, but we'll talk more about that. I'm just happy the fact that we're back in the dance, and we always got a chance. Patriots always got a chance, and we're looking forward to another great show tonight, as always.
A chip, a chair, and a chance. That's the saying goes. It will be a fun game to watch. Hopefully, it's not a blowout. I don't think it will be. Like I said before, I don't see this game being a blowout by any means. You know. So, and again, we'll get to that because Voldy, I think we announced it last week, but in case you missed it, and you'll be seeing this on the socials medias, take a look. Oh! Bam! Hell yeah! That is what it is. You know what it is. It is the Super Bowl special. Yes, sixth annual, by the way. We've been doing it 6 years. Damn. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, Voldy, I found the thumbnail intriguing because I was like, I'm glad I got your Warriors thing on here because, you know, I just timed it right. Whenever I'm putting together the thumbnail, I'm just like, okay, I got to screenshot it. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. And it looks great. Yep. So
I got the video recording on my phone right now too, just ready to pull that out. I love it. To see you, Vrabel, I think at practice this week. He's a vest guy, so always invest.
Hey, vest is we like vests.
The vest, he's got the Warriors on the front of the vest. He's got the Patriots logo, and he's got T Strong for the defensive coordinator who's battling through cancer. Thankfully, he's back with the team here this week as well. And then on the other side, it's got the Warriors come out to play from the hit movie back in the 70s, of course. The Warriors is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. It's cult classic. I love it.
Well, that's good to know because I was hoping it wasn't in reference to the Golden State Warriors, who are in contention for a certain player. And that certain player, the buzz all week, and literally we are on hashtag Giannis Watch here on MinneZona Sports Live. Yes. Will Giannis be a Minnesota Timberwolf? It sounds like it's going to be between the Wolves and the Warriors and the Heat right now, but I don't know. I mean, there's all these conflicting reports. There's all these things that have been said, but I think the Wolves are trying to get something done, and I think it's going to come down to the wire. I really do. But if anything happens on this show in regards to anything, you know the deal. You know what's going to be playing. This. So, if you hear this, that means we are interrupting our programming to dish out what Shams will probably put out on the socials medias. So be aware of that. But we are on the Giannis watch. We will keep an eye on the X, formerly known as Twitter, and keep you updated. But not just the Wolves. We have a lot of talk. Literally, I think the next day, there was all this stuff happening, like on Thursday into Friday. Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah has been fired by the Minnesota Vikings. A lot to be said about that. I've been waiting all week to talk about this. I really have. I've been waiting all week to talk about that. But not only that, Voldy, Derek Falvey fired. Or not, no, he didn't get, well, I mean, did he? Do we know? Yeah, mutually parted ways, and there's a lot to be said there, too, so we'll talk about that. But tonight, Zoners, it is the top 10 in famous list. Yes, we have updated our list. There's a lot to talk about. There's some new things on here, by the way. I saw yours, Voldy. I've seen mine. You've probably seen mine. And I'm telling you right now, there's some changes. There's some changes for sure. So keep an eye out on those, and we will see how it all goes with that. And then ARA tonight, Voldy's got a stacked deck of ARA. NBA trade deadline is already happening. There's been deals made. The Wolves have made one deal. Is that setting up for Giannis? I don't know. We'll talk about it. The Saints are playing in France in 2026. Who will they play is the question. Yes, boo. Anything with the Aints we don't like. The Cardinals and the Raiders find their next head coach is Mike LaFleur, not Matt LaFleur, going to the Cardinals. And it sounds like Raiders are just pretty much taking Clint Kubiak no matter what happens on Sunday. So we'll talk about those hirings. And then Robert Kraft, not in the Hall of Fame class of 2026. Just more Patriots not being first ballot. I don't understand. The Kings, big news out of the NHL. The Kings trade for Panarin, I believe, and he's going to the Kings. He's going from New York to LA. So it's crazy in itself how that's been put together. So that was a big trade in the NHL. And then Shield shoutouts tonight. So we have that on deck. So we better get going because there's a lot to talk about. Let's get it going. I'm wearing the Wolves hat, by the way, so I'm ready for anything. And you can consider something with the hats as well. We'll get to that later on in the show. But let's get it going with some tater-tot. Hot take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's Tater Tot Hot Take. It's hot, it's fresh, and it's right out of the oven. It may be burnt due to firings, but, this is where we're at. The big news, and I believe it was Friday, if I'm not mistaken, the Minnesota Vikings decide to fire former GM, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Whether you were fans of it, whether you weren't fans of it, let us know in the chats, too. It's kind of surprising because you would have thought this would have happened maybe a bit earlier. I wasn't expecting him to be fired, especially when he was at the Senior Bowl, getting ready for the upcoming season, looking at some of the talent that might be out there in the draft. And, well, that isn't the case. So there's a lot of things to be said about this. There's been theories that people have been throwing out there, whether you believe them, whether you don't believe them. The big one is obviously the quarterback. I think that's the big talker that everyone wants to talk about. It was his decision to, move on from Sam Darnold, yada, yada, yada. We talked about it last week. And whether or not Kevin O'Connell was a fan of that or not, we'll never know. And this is why I'm sitting back here and saying, let's just dissect some of these things that transpired. But the other thing is the drafts. I mean, the drafts have been bad, to say the least. And we all thought Kwesi cooked this past offseason with the free agency. And some guys delivered, some guys didn't. And, we'll discuss that, even further. But I wanted to throw this out to the zoners, and I throw this to you now, Voldy, is, it comes as a shock because we're all thinking, okay, this is, like, I thought he was already probably on the hot seat, with going into the season because I could have seen them saying, like, this ain't working. But the Wolves always do this end of the year thing where they fully dissect what's going on. A lot of turmoil, behind the scenes stuff that was happening, which I'm not a fan of either. But Voldy, your overall thoughts here on the situation and why the Vikings ended up firing Kwesi?
Well, it's just crazy how the timing out of everything. And you just had a sense, well, first off, let's address the big elephant in the room. The Vikings losing to the Ravens, conspiracy theory, of course, if the Vikings win, they go to the NFC Championship. And if the Vikings lose to the Ravens, the head coach gets fired. This case, we did not lose our head coach, thank God, but we did lose our GM in the process.
Yes.
So I guess we're still batting 1,000. I think now that makes it 4 out of 5 or something like that, 3 out of 4, something like that.
Yeah.
Either way, Hall of Fame numbers. More on that coming up here. But the timing out of all of it is it's not good for the Vikings. We're off to a bad start for 2026 because obviously he got let go and he's at the Senior Bowl. He's looking at the next crop of players that the Vikings are going to be drafting. And unfortunately, now as he is let go from his services as GM, now guys are going to have to step up in a lot of very difficult situations. Of course, the gentleman that they have to replace him, he's been with the organization probably the entirety of this century, if not very close to, but he's been on the other side of things. He hasn't been like, football player ops or something like that, of football operations. He's been, I believe, like on the side of like accounting or something not, fully game day or game preparation related. So it's really going to come through with him in an interim role to kind of be the pillar out of all of it, or he's going to be the figurehead of all of it, while KOC, the coaching staff, the scouting departments are going to be the ones that have to do all the legwork here in order to get ready for the draft, because obviously you have still a couple of months away, but still very crucial times, of course, with the Senior Bowl, all the draft preparation, pro days, of course, the combine coming up here in about a month's time or so. Not very good timing by the Vikings in that regard. And of course, like you mentioned too, with the hot seat, not surprised that there was, of course, maybe a little bit of tension or concerns, or maybe just straight up flat miscommunication between the front office and the coaching staff to, to get the right guys into, the right positions. Of course, the whole situation with Sam Darnold, we don't need to talk about that anymore. Daniel Jones on top of it. And maybe that this was just going to be writings on the wall and, maybe one of those I told you so kind of years. And unfortunately, it did not work out to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's favor as he's let go from his position.
Well, you kind of touched on it, and, I agree with pretty much all that. I think the big takeaway from this is that the disconnect between front office and coaches. Listen, they kept preaching when Kwesi was hired, when Kevin O'Connell was hired, that they would collaborate, that they would be together and make these decisions as a collective, right? And, Kwesi's obviously has the final say and whatnot. But I think what we didn't realize is that the inexperience that Kwesi kind of had right away. And the inexperience is what I'm saying by that is he didn't really necessarily he didn't play in the NFL. He was with some GM roles. He came from Wall Street. A very big numbers guy, and it's outside the box hiring, which I think, it's like it doesn't hurt to try, right? But it seems to me that Kwesi just didn't really know how to operate the drafts as effectively as we would think, right? Now, I'm going to say not all of his picks were bad, but a good majority of them were. Lewis Cine, he gone. That's all. I mean, all you got to say is Lewis Cine. I mean, he's
got a Super Bowl ring, but he's out of the league.
He is. He's in the UFL. Some other guys that we've traded, Mekhi Blackmon's another guy that the Vikings did trade. He's gone. Andrew Booth, he gone. I mean, it is crazy how many people they've gone through. And this is his drafts. But the ones that he hit on, Will Reichard, I think Dallas Turner is still, he's not a bust, I'll say that. But there's not a lot of guys that are on this roster right now that he drafted. Mm-hmm. And there were reports, and I don't know what other people have read, but he was basing metrics off his drafts on PFF, Pro Football Focus, which I have a hard time believing, but knowing his background, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Now, I am still going to somewhat, in a way, defend him on the instance of Darnold here. I explained it last week. I said, listen, 95% of people, fans, or zoners or whoever, would have done what Kwesi did and saying, let's roll with the kid and go from there. Now, I think Kevin O'Connell did have say in that. It's hard to know for sure because you got the. Luckily, Alec Lewis was part of this kind of what he thought on it with the Athletic. Unfortunately, Diana Rossini was in on it as well. Yes, I know. But I have faith in Alec Lewis because I think he's accurately reporting this too. So I mean I'm not getting on Diana Rossini for this, but a lot of I think the Wolves were upset, and I can't speak for them. But Sam Darnold being in the Super Bowl, I feel like kind of solidified like, what the hell were you guys thinking? Right. And do I blame them for that? No, but I think it's a little. I think it was a little hasty to say, well, we got to let go of him because of that. It's a great number of things. Now, we have this paternity leave when his kid's born and whatnot, and he got massacred for that on the social medias. And I can't say I blame the people that called him out on that because, you are a general manager. You have to be there for those practices, for those. I mean, if you're trying to bring down the roster down to 53 and you're not there but you're online and you're doing meetings from there, it's like it's not how that's supposed to go. You have to make those sacrifices in the NFL. You have to be there all the time because the main thing is you're there to bring this team a championship. Mm-hmm. I don't blame them for that. I didn't even know about it until it was reported, which it was confirmed by a lot of the writers that are out there right now. They took a gamble on Kwesi. They said, let's see where this goes. I liked it. I thought it was gonna work out, but it didn't. And I don't blame the Wolves for doing it, but you can't have that disconnect. We've seen this before. Zimmer, Spielman, they both were awful after they signed Kirk to each other, to other people. I mean, you can't have that. And I think the Vikings were like, we got to prevent this from happening because now it was kind of more front office versus coaching staff. And I think O'Connell and Kwesi still kind of had some friendships. I listened to Tommy P earlier this week about, like, hey, you know what? There's been a lot of things thrown out in the socials medias, and he says, look, they're not mortal enemies or anything like that. It's just that they have disagreements. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Who doesn't? And I think, we don't know what that particularly was, But it sounds like from the people that the writers have talked to and some other, insiders have talked to, have said, I think a lot of the decision was Sam Darnold going to the Super Bowl, which I don't doubt that either. The Wolves, that kind of made up the Wolves' mind, but I think they still took a couple weeks to assess the full situations, and especially the discourse. Apparently, I don't know, and again, this is on the socials. I don't know what's real. I don't know what the hell is going on half the time. But the reason why Flores was hesitant on coming back, apparently, was if they kept Kwesi. And it was kind of leaning towards that way, kind of. But I doubt that factored in because, listen, Kwesi got Flores guys. He got Gink. He got Grenard. He got those guys to help this. Byron Murphy, another one. Look, this is, I don't necessarily rip. I find it weird if Flores would be ripping Kwesi on those. I mean, he got those guys, and I just don't think that it never. I don't believe that report. What I do believe is that it was the big decision was the Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones bit. Now. One thing I do want to ask you, best luck to Kwesi, by the way. It's not a very, it's a tough situation. And, I have some questions, and one of the big questions that I have for this situation is Rob Brzezinski. He's been with this organization for 28 years, I think it was reported, that he had that going for them, which is great. I think if you have a guy like that that's been around in the league, been in draft rooms, been a cap wizard like he has been, I mean, he has been, fantastic, but they're going to rely heavily on the coaching staff to, free agents, draft and whatnot. I believe that he can do it, and if he gets the gig and whatnot, so be it. I'm okay with it, but there's been some names thrown out there. But Voldy, what are your thoughts? And I asked this of the zoners too. Do we have enough faith in Brzezinski and the coaching staff to make these decisions this upcoming off season as well, and into the draft too? What do you got?
Well, I think it's a very interesting situation as a whole, as you've gotten a guy that definitely knows the numbers as your interim GM at the moment, but then you've got on the side of, setting up the team for the future through the draft and maybe even free agency as well. Well, you need someone that knows what the team needs directly with players and how they can benefit the overall structure of the team as a whole. And that's where the coaching staff, the scouting department is really going to be leaned on heavily in that regard. I don't see an issue right now with it. I know that quite possibly that the interview process right now for the position is probably going to be going on leading up to, even after the draft, if they decide to go after a candidate for the GM position. But it's like I said earlier, just bad timing because, of course, they're going to, Rob Brzezinski is going to be holding the position through the draft. After that, then will they be looking at a GM? Then you're kind of stuck with, guys that were drafted and guys that would potentially be signed already that were signed by somebody else, and you don't have your mark on the team or what you think is going to be right for the team going forward. I don't really not have a very little faith in it because I don't know what's going to go on, basically. If they start going for some reaches in the draft, then I'll probably be a little bit more concerned. But as of right now, I think it's an ideal situation. You've got kind of the coaching staff, the scouts, making the really big decisions, and also you've got a guy that's kind of near the top that's talking with ownership and the coaches to say, okay, here's how we can get this guy, here's how we can move some money around so that way he's happy, we're happy, and we've got a piece of we've got a player that's going to be good enough for the future here for the team. So I think right now it's a good situation for the Vikings as of right now, because right now we don't know any better. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into at this point.
Yeah, and if this year was any any example, I mean, it was, we didn't know Sam Darnold would take the Seahawks to the Super Bowl. We said this last week.
No.
But
No.
there's a name that's been popping up, and this is speculation at this point. There's a long way. It's going to be a long offseason nonetheless. Former assistant GM for the Vikings, George Patton. Or it is Peyton. Oh, okay. I thought it was Patton. I see the pronunciation here. He was assistant GM under Spielman, and he is now with Denver. Yeah. He's now with Denver, and I mean, you look at what Denver did this year, and they were quite good, unfortunately, with that other idiot head coach. But I digress. His contract is up, so if the Vikings would want to say, we want you back, we want you on our side and kind of fix this thing for us, or steer us in the right direction and whatnot, I say go and do it. Because what they did with Bo Nix and how they assembled that defense is insane. I mean, he's done a fantastic job. So I think the Vikings, he has a lot of strong connections here. The Wolves know him, respect him, and some other guys, around in the organization do. I think he'd be fine. I think that'd be a good, interesting take if they don't go with Brzezinski. Again, if you're with the organization for 28 years and you've seen it all and whatnot, I think he deserves some consideration. But if it's just more mainly cap and dealing with that types of things, okay, so be it. But I'm not overly concerned. I think they're going to make the right decisions this time around because they need a veteran quarterback. They need to shed this cap space issue that we thought at that point last year that it was a smart move. And some of these guys, I mean, Will Fries is one guy that I felt played very consistently. I think you can make the case for Hargrave as well, but there's a lot of things to consider. And, I just think they overcalculated the whole thing, roster, things like that. So we'll keep you up to date on anything Vikings related, depending on what you guys think. You want Sam Darnold to win? Do you not want him to win? Let us know. In the chats, too. We'll talk about it on Super Bowl Sunday, too, so keep that in mind. All right, let's get to the other, I'd probably say, let's put it like this. The clown show that will never stop. No intermission. Yep. The Minnesota Twins and Derek Falvey mutually part ways, and I do it like this. Mutually part ways. This comes as a surprise in the sense of this, Voldy. They were 2 weeks away from spring training, and Tom Pohlad and his band of clowns that are the Pohlads decide, we got them part ways. This is the only question I really have to ask you and the zoners. What the hell is going on? What are they doing? This is just insane. What are your thoughts on the firing of Falvey? Or not the mutually parting ways of Falvey?
Yes. I don't understand what's going on anymore. You knew that it was going to be a bad start when Pohlad was named to be the new controlling head of the team, when he had no interest in the team to begin with, or was not even heavily involved with the organization previously. I mean, he was more on the other business side of the Pohlads and all their other ownerships and ventures in that area. And it's like, hey, why don't you be in charge of this baseball team that we've owned, that Dad and Grandpa owned for God knows how long. And I'm just like, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we setting ourselves up for more damage? And now we've got this going on, and like some of the moves that have been made leading up to spring training, and again, 2 weeks away from that, less than 2 weeks, and we're in fact 1 month away from the World Baseball Classic. Fun fact on top of that too. It's very, again, bad timing because we don't know who's really going to be in charge. And that now we currently sit at another point, like who's going to be making the moves, what's the situation we're going to be in, the other free agents we're looking at, any other sort of moves to help bolster the bullpen, maybe pick up a bat as well for the team. But again, it just continues to get even more and more crazy because we've got a new controlling figurehead, and then ultimately the one guy that we said should have been let go at the end of the season, not only did he stay with the team, he also got re-upped and even promoted, if you will, from his position, and now he's not even there anymore. It just continues to dwell further and further into insanity, and we are not off to a good start here with the Twins organization. And I would not be surprised if early season struggles for the Twins, 40-50 games into the year, if the Twins are not doing so well, might be a quick exit for Derek Shelton. I would not be surprised in the slightest.
So a couple things. I had to listen to a couple of people, close to the situation as Tate joins us for this other half of the show. And I would say that a lot of what we're dealing with here is that I don't even know how to really describe it, to be quite honest with you guys, right about now, because I've repeated this over and over and over and over and over and over and over again on this show. But let's stick with the facts here. I listened to Aaron Gleeman, who I feel like is the most reasonable and most accurate Twins writer out there. Not saying that it's, not really necessarily saying that it is a done deal where where he's like giving people just like, they're just kissing up to the poleads. No, he's not. He's trying to fairly judge the steam on what's going on. And he said something that I feel like is resonating towards a lot of Twins fans right now. And that being they're past the point of angry. And Barrero said this with him because they were talking on K-Fan. And they said, the fans right now, including myself too, are past mad and angry. It's just apathy. Nobody cares. And that is and he said, and Gleeman said, that is the most dangerous thing for an organization, is to have fans that are just like, I don't have a horse in the race with this team because they're doing the same shtick over and over again. That is the problem here. And the poll ads, I just don't know what they're trying to accomplish here, because they have been absolutely the worst ownership group I've ever seen in my life. And Tom Pohlad goes out and says, well, I'll probably do something different. Okay, so what are you going to do differently? Well, I'm going to fire our GM 2 weeks before spring training. We had it set up with him and Shelton and everything like that. A guy that they know, he was the bench coach for Baldelli. Him and Falvey get along and whatnot. They were very upbeat in how this works. Something didn't resonate between these two guys. Apparently, the exit interview in regards to Falvey was kind of more happy to be out of there. Whereas Tom Pohlad is sitting there on Zoom And this guy has the gall to say, like, oh, it's just we mutually parted ways. We want what's best for the team and whatnot. And he said something that I just feel like is just absolutely pathetic. And he goes and says, I want to get off the whole payroll thing for a second. Listen, Tom, it's all about payroll. Every single thing, every single decision that you have made has been about payroll. You guys don't have it. You guys have lower payroll and everything along those lines. And you have sat there and done nothing. Nothing. And they act as if, we'll figure it out. We're gonna be competitive in 2026 and this and that. Stop lying. You're alienating this fan base. You are actually doing a disservice to a lot of these former players that have worked their tails off, like the Joe Mauers, Tony Olivas, the Justin Morneaus, just to name a few. And you have the gall to just say, we're getting rid of Falvey 2 weeks before the season. Now, I'm not saying that, Falvey was a saint. He could do no wrong. I question a lot of what he said. He was on the top 10 in famous list. So what is the issue here, right? It's them. It's always been them. And Voldy, I don't know if you saw this, but I have been on the social medias, and the Twins are putting out these deals and, everything along those lines of like, come to game, $3 for a beer, whatever. It's something like that. Then they announce these concerts that are going to be happening at Target Field. Let me explain something to the poll ads right now. You have more people going to those concerts, going for those concerts, than you do baseball fans. I mean, how pathetic are you guys? Your own baseball team, people are going just for the concerts. They're not going for your baseball team. I mean, it's mind-blowing to me. It really is. I'm seeing all this stuff, and it's just like, what have we come to? I mean, this team, and I think a lot of what people have said, Voldy, I don't know if you agree with this or not, that people are just past the point of not going to games. I mean, it's just it's crazy to me, man. I don't understand why this is the case. I don't understand why people are. I don't understand why are they the way that they are. That's my biggest question. Why are the poll ads the way that they are? But they have more people going to those concerts than they do for their actual baseball team. They should be ashamed of themselves. So, yeah. Anything to add, Voldy, before we go to
just
top 10?
Talking about, too, I think, for lack of a better term, I think the poll ads are just checked out at this point. They just are just doing as much of the bare minimum as they can, of course, with the, in-season entertainment, like the concerts and everything. And the one game that I went to last year with a couple of friends from South Dakota, it was called 612 Saturdays, $6 draft beers. I think it was like $1 hot dogs and like $2 candies or something like that. And it was well worth it for that stretch of time there for sure. But the one downside, it was like Corona Extra and Bud Light were the only drafts that they had there. So a bit of a downturn in that regard. But nonetheless, I think the poll ads are doing as much as they can by doing as little as possible at that same time. Just, really being like, oh, we'll give you something to look forward to, but we're not actually going to do anything when it comes to the product on the field. And sadly, yeah, I think the poll ads at this point are just completely checked out of what it is to be, owners of a Major League Baseball franchise.
Then sell the team. I mean, why keep putting fans like us through the process of dealing with these idiots. I mean, it's crazy to me. And I'm disappointed at this point. It's disappointing. And this is a good franchise, man. They're the only team that has won a major championship in this town for the longest time. Yep. And the Pollads are ruining it. They've ruined it. And now we're in this position that we're in. I mean, Falvey left because he was sick of these guys, because they're not giving him enough resources to work with. Just saying. Anyway, that'll do it for Tater Tot Hot Take this week. I should have checked, but we were ranting and just wanted to make sure that we got everything that we needed to. No word yet on Giannis. We are keeping eyes on. The Wolves are playing the Raptors right now. They're down at half, 72-59. If you're playing like this and you don't win, people are getting traded. I will say that. We'll keep an eye on how that's going. It seems like the Gophers are playing really well. They're taking on number 10 Michigan State, and they're up. Keep an eye on that, too. So we'll keep an eye on that. But, Voldy, we have updated our top 10 infamous lists. Yes, there are many new names on this list, on these lists that we have put together. And if you guys, like we said, if you guys want us to add to that list, or if you have your own list, send it to us. So I say we get it going with our top 10 infamous lists.
Here's the list no one wants to be on. Infamous Top 10.
All right, infamous Top 10 is good and ready to go. We got to do the drum roll. I mean, we just can't not. It's Top 10 infamous lists. We got to do the big reveal. So let's do it. Boom! There it is. Yes, in all its glory, the top 10 infamous lists. I'll go first, Voldy, and then I'll pass it off to you for yours. So let's start with my list. I feel like there really wasn't. How do I put it? There wasn't like too much movement, but there was enough to say, oh, okay, there's some movement going on here. So I start off at number 10. I'm kind of going with the NBA trade deadline stuff, and I'm going number 10, James Harden. I feel like he has not been on my list at all, ever, but he is entering this list, and I really have an issue with James Harden. He has continued to have all the talent in the world and decide to blow things up just because he feels like he's entitled. He has been traded to how many different teams in the past 10 years? I mean, Houston, I think after the Thunder, Thunder, Houston. After that, it was there was somebody in between. I can't think of who it was, but was it Brooklyn? I can't remember. Brooklyn, Sixers, and it's just the Clippers. Now he's with the Cavs. This guy has called out his own GM. You're trying to help him out and whatnot. Doesn't come through in big games. And he's been traded so many times. He puts up all these numbers, but he never comes through when you need him. And I think that is warranted for an infamous top 10 list, because this guy has continuously been sabotaging the teams after he does it. He's like, I'm done with this. I can't deal with this. I'm out of here. Why? Oh, because I'm not getting enough attention. I'm not getting the balls and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you're not doing anything. You haven't proven anything. You haven't won a championship. We put you with KD and Kyrie in Brooklyn, and you've done nothing to do that. So, James Harden's at number 10, and he said that he didn't ask a trade from the Clippers, but I think he's a big old liar on that front because look at your history. Number 9, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones really has, I feel like, has really put the Cowboys in a bad position, especially giving up Micah. The relationship there didn't last between him and Micah, and it just got to a point where it's like, oh, we're moving on, so they did. But Jerry Jones on this list, I brought him down a little bit just because I feel like there really hasn't been anything new. But we'll keep an eye on dealings because I got to try and sign George Pickens, and he was at the Super Bowl. I saw you could go to the Packers and this and that. I'm like, yeah, they're going to spend money. Who does that? Especially Packer fans. Number 8, the national sports media. Look, the national sports media, there's a lot of opinions out there, and there's a lot of people that call themselves reporters that really aren't necessarily. I know Voldy will probably get more into this, especially on the Viking side of it. But I just keep seeing all this stuff that gets posted, and especially people that are just putting out takes just because they want to get clicks. And, here on MinneZona Sports Live, we're going to tell you how we feel and what we think, but we're also going to welcome other opinions as well, which I think is the right thing to do. But the national sports media has gotten pretty bad, and especially towards Minnesota sports. There's been people even saying like, "Oh, they're not gonna get Giannis. They're not gonna get anybody. They're gonna screw this up. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that." It's like, shut up. Just let it play out. Jeez. So anyway, there's that factored in too. Number 7, WNBA, Kathy Engelbert. Really hasn't been anything new in regards to that. A lot of issues there specifically, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of WNBA, Angel Reese. Again, really haven't heard anything besides just kind of going on these, commercials, these shows and stuff like that. Look, she's just trying to make as much paper as she can, then getting her me bounce. So really nothing new there. Number 5, Sean Payton. Look, Sean Payton has really made a lot of enemies over his years, and he's kind of he's might have even done it to his own quarterback, Bo Nix. He didn't like that. Sean Payton was giving out all his injury history right after that injury that he had against the Bills, and he's like, "Look, I don't like that he did." It's like, do we have a schism going on here? Because we've seen Sean Payton, Russell Wilson. That didn't go well. Not everybody's Drew Brees, Sean Payton. Hate to tell you that. But Sean Payton's up here. He's saying stuff that he really shouldn't. And he was saying that, that fans will have their tickets ready for the Super Bowl and whatnot. And then I think Keyshawn Booty said, they can watch in Cancun or whatever, Super Bowl in Cancun, which I think is a great comeback. So I got Sean Payton up. Jordan Hudson, look, I haven't heard anything really new. Apparently she was bashing the NFL, Pro Football Hall of Fame NFL, which, rightfully so, I feel like in some cases. But at the same time, she's the one that she's the problem here. This isn't anything. It's what she's done to the guy is how I look at it. So Jordan Hudson's at number 4. She dropped 1. A guy that hasn't been on my list for a long time, Clowntonio Brown. Clowntonio gets in trouble. Apparently he's trying to shoot people. He got arrested after coming back from Abu Dhabi or whatever the hell he was. And he's in legal trouble again. It's like, when is this going to stop? When are you going to make this guy stop? And he continues just to make an ass out of himself. And what are you to do at that point? So Clowntonio, number 3. Number 2, Draymond Green. Man, he doesn't stop talking. I feel like if he wasn't talking, people would be really concerned, but he's always talking. He's always talking shit. He's always talking about how, he doesn't like this person, he doesn't like that person. He hates Rudy Gobert so much that it's just an unhealthy amount, and especially when Rudy hasn't done anything to him. So there's that factored in as well. Brown? No way. Yeah. Way. I know you're being sarcastic, but it's crazy to me how much legal trouble he's been in too with Clantonio. But Draymond's always yapping, and he was yapping today. He's saying that guys are clowns and all this stuff. He thinks that they trade Draymond Green tomorrow. That's an interesting one, Voldy. I think that's very possible. Would that be part of a Giannis trade, Lucas? That is my question. Which is possible, but we want him. We want him here. We want him in Minnesota, which would be great. But depending on who they have to give up, I think they trade Green by tomorrow. I agree. I think it could be part of that trade. We'll see. Number one, I have that guy, Aaron Rodgers. Look, the season's been over for a while, and they're still talking about him. And this is involving the national media. Still talking about him. They hired Mike McCarthy. Oh, how many times have you talked to Aaron Rodgers to come back? The Steelers. Yeah, we've talked a lot. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, shut the hell up. I don't care. You guys aren't going to be any good. It doesn't matter. So I'm just sick of that. Any reference to him these past few weeks is just ridiculous in itself. So I don't want to hear it. He's still at number one just because it's just constant. It's constant. They just love just to talk about him all the time. And Lucas puts it perfectly here, Voldy. The real A-Rod came out in the playoffs. That's exactly what happened because they got smushed. So, I don't know if he'll make it even the season next year. So, he's at number one. So, that's my list. Let me know what you guys think. Like it, hate it, add some guys to it. Let me know. So, all right, Voldy, let's go with your list so people can see you. There we go.
Well, I made a few adjustments to my corresponding list, starting off with the transfer portal at number 10. Just the ever-going cycle of you can basically come in, please, as you go, especially in the world of college football. You can transfer 2 or 3 times before you even actually step foot onto a football field for a given team from one season to the next. There's too many loopholes, too many things going on, and just sometimes a little bit of too much of everything is not always a good thing, and especially for these collegiate athletes that are already making hand over fist in money. Definitely not the greatest thing in the world. Of course, sports streaming services are now at the number 9 spot in my top 10 and famous list. Of course, now with the ever consultation and ongoing struggle for Major League Baseball teams to continue on with their services, of course, going from, the traditional regional sports networks to, of course, at one point it was, Fox Sports North, and it was Bally Sports North, and then now it's FanDuel Sports, FanDuel Sports Network, yada, yada, yada. It just continues to get even more muddied to the point. And how come I have to pay for a different streaming service if I want to watch one thing, but yet I can't watch said thing unless I have the means to do so? I barely have enough money to put gas in my car. You expect me to pay $19.99 a month to watch the Wild win or even the Twins lose 120 games this year? Hopefully not. But nonetheless, that's why they remain on the list. Draymond Green at the number 8 spot has to continue to make his, quarterly appearance on the rankings for me, just based off the fact of this given track record that he has of a frequent offender when it comes to disciplinary actions for the NBA. And yet he continues to get away with it just based off the fact that he's been on and part of a franchise that is a notorious winner. Rob Manfred is at the number 7 spot when the commissioner of one of the big 4 sports in professional sports, especially in North America, says, I think I might retire sometime soon, or retire in the next 4 to 5 years. Not exactly the greatest spot to put yourself in when your track record says, yeah, we're going to try and make some things work, and yet we're not at the same time. A lot of pushback and not a lot of positive forward play when it comes to Rob Manfred. Up to the number 6 spot. I got so tired of talking about these two instances separately with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers that I decided to put them into one. Most recently, of course, with the NHL Stadium Series down in Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium, the home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Lightning went down 5-1 at one point against the Boston Bruins, my favorite NHL team, along with the Minnesota Wild. And you thought this one was in the bag. But lo and behold, let's make it all the way back from a 4-goal deficit to win and even take it in a shootout. But also, let's throw some real salt in the wound as well. We got a goalie fight at an outdoor game, and that was awesome to see, but just really just impossible to enjoy anything along with that. And I'm also seeing here tonight as well with the Boston Bruins taking on the Florida Panthers, a little bit of a cheap shot hit that took down a potential was a shoe-in to make the national team for Team USA, and Charlie McAvoy, already battling back from injury from taking a puck to the face and his face swelling up to the size of 3 balloons attached to his left part of his jaw, left the game early due to another dirty hit. Back-to-back Stanley Cups for the Florida Panthers does not win them any favors nonetheless. So that's why Florida NHL hockey is on the list. The Big Ten Conference, my dismay with them has been boiled all the way back to 2020 with the cancellation and then subsequent return to football during the pandemic that led to a very interesting run for college football at that point, and then just continuing to muster all the way through with putting these said schools on the pedestal. But I will say college football's last 3 national champions hailing from the Conference of Champions that belonging to the Big Ten. But now spanning from coast to coast, from Washington and, of course, UCLA, USC, and Oregon, all the way to the East Coast with Rutgers as well. The Big Ten Conference spanning from coast to coast with their 18 teams. Yes, count them out. A Big Ten Conference with 18 teams now stands head and shoulders above most in the complete absurdity when it comes to calling themselves a premier conference. They're a mid-major conference with $1 billion budget and will forever be that in my mind. Up to the number 4 spot, the Shadur Slanderers. Boy, what a season it has been for Shadur Sanders and those that wanted to drag him down from a consensus, at least early going top 5, top 3 draft pick in this past spring's NFL draft, then dropping all the way down to the 5th round, and he makes it out of the rookie mini camp all the way through training camp and is slated as that number 3 quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, eventually working his way up the depth chart with the trade, of course, of the likes of Joe Flacco, bouncing back and forth from injury from Dylan Gabriel, gets his shot in the latter part of the season. And from what we saw from that first start all the way back, he definitely earned, of course, with one of those comments, a Pro Bowl nomination. And those slanderers that tore him down saying that he can't make it, he's only here because of his dad, he's not even a really good quarterback. Look at him now. I know that the Pro Bowl has lost a lot of its luster, but at the end of the day, that Pro Bowl does look good on the resume. If maybe we're talking about further down the road after maybe 15, 16, 17 years in the NFL, maybe we'll see a gold jacket and a bronze bust in Canton, Ohio, right next to his old man in Shadur Sanders. And Shadur cannot be held down. And I look forward to see what his future holds, whether it be in Cleveland or maybe somewhere else. Moving up to that number 3 spot, the national sports media. My distaste for the national sports media and tearing down Minnesota sports only continues on with the fact that just the sheer amount of conversation and just trying to start fires with the national media and the whole Minnesota Vikings quarterback situation. Now, most recently, of course, with the GM situation and the relief of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah being let go as general manager. I do not remember in my slightest mind and or time of such great conversation about how inept the Minnesota Vikings are from the national sports media sense. I can't remember, maybe all the way back to the Brett Favre era of the Vikings. And, will he, won't he, is he coming? Is he retired? I don't know. But just they find a way each and every time, national sports media, to just say how awful Minnesota professional sports are, even though we are doing relatively good in some respects to other franchises and sports, and of course, major cities that host their own professional sports. But yet, according to the national sports media, we are an awful entity and a place to be around when it comes to professional sports. Up to the number 2 spot. Of course, my computer wants to get a little bit foggy there. Matt, what's it say there for my number 2?
Anti-Vikings agenda pushers. Yes.
Oh, there we are, which is also
Speaking of which,
spawning off the national sports media. This really also boils down to our conversation last week during Callahan, the School of Logic. The whole Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, why did you re-sign them? Why didn't you bring one of them back? Why is J.J. McCarthy our starting quarterback? Why does the Minnesota Vikings still exist? And just continuing to tear down a team that just wants to play football. And yet they will find that be the anti-Viking agenda pushers to say how awful we are no matter what, even though at the end of the season, we won 5 straight games. We won 5 straight games to finish above 500, even after at one point when we were 4 games under 500 and we were rolling in quarterbacks like they were a dime a dozen. Carson Wentz literally threw with only one arm, and that wasn't even his good arm to begin with. And hopefully a speedy recovery for Carson as well. I'd love to see him back in the league and hopefully back in purple, but we'll see that for another day. And yet, whether it be the media, whether it be social media, whether it be these so-called influencers or talking heads, just continuing to find ways just to twist the knife and push, again, the agenda of saying that the Vikings, they don't know what they're doing. Where was all of this hatred last season for Caleb Williams? And I feel like that just got all swept under the rug, and everybody else is just fine and dandy with it as the season comes along. I just cannot wait for a full off season. JJ McCarthy knows he's going to be the starting quarterback next season. He's got the time to heal. He's got the time to rehab. He's got another full off season in front of him for him to prepare, to get ready, get back the timing. And I just cannot wait for when JJ McCarthy makes everybody eat crow the rightful way that he should. And finally, at the number 1 spot here with the top 10 and famous list, I'm not even going to say her name. She's been quite adamant, of course, her position within the household, in the house of Belichick as well. Of course, from the early goings and conversations talking about how she was, of course, dating Bill Belichick and heavily involved with everything going off the field. Of course, his transition from not only NFL coaching to taking the season off and then becoming the head coach for the University of North Carolina football program, and how that has all really spiraled after a very unfortunate start to the Belichick era in Chapel Hill. And of course, the conversations that took place. The one thing that really stands out, the conversation that took place with the CBS News, and of course, the recent release of his book just right around the start of the football season, and how she found a way to interject herself into the conversation when she wasn't even a part of the book writing process to begin with. And of course, I believe the book, The Art of Winning, or something along those lines. Don't quote me directly on that. Haven't gotten my copy of the book. Bill, you know where I'm at, you know where I am, and you have my contact information. But I throw all that into the mix here, and how she still found a way to put herself in the spotlight of what should be a first ballot Hall of Fame coach as well, with his 8 Super Bowl championships, numerous players that are in the Hall of Fame and soon to be in the Hall of Fame on top of it, and the numbers speak for themselves. But yet, the most ridiculous thing out of all of it, this person, her, she, I believe those are her pronouns. I'm not going to speak for her directly, but if otherwise, adult cheerleader competing in competitive cheerleading at an advanced age, I will certainly say. Of course, she's only in her mid-20s. Well beyond the point of probably competitive competition in cheer as well. But yet that is still a thing at her age as well in the competitive cheer aspect. Good for her, I guess, but still very, very odd in the fact that she is now, again, relevant with her place at the top of my top 10 and famous list. I don't even know to go from that point. When I saw that information, that all come out, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
A new low has been struck yet again. So there you go.
It's a sad situation, to say the least. But Voldy, before we move on to A or A, I do have something. It's not what you think, though, okay? That's our list, by the way. Let us know what you guys think, like, hate, whatever. But I do have a couple news items. It's not what you think it is, okay? Otherwise, I would have been ecstatic. The Detroit Tigers are signing Framber Valdez to a 3-year, $115 million deal.
We are so...
Let me say this, because apparently this was one of Aaron Gleeman's possible guys that they could target, the Twins. Another one bites the dust. Another one.
Yep.
I mean, it's a clown show at this point. It's a clown show. So just wanted to throw that in there. But another thing, the Wild are playing right now. Guess who has a hat trick?
Matt Boldy.
Matt Boldy, that's right. Yes, Matt Boldy. It says how many? He's had a lot.
Hat trick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's had a lot, and he's been damn good, man. Shouts out to him. He's been playing really well for the Wild. Wild been just killing it as of late as well. 3-3, I believe it still is. Shouts out to Matt Boldy. He's been killing it as per usual. So, those are kind of the updates. I know I'm not trying to like gaslight you here and be like, "Ooh, we got news," but when we do, I will stop everything. Even if we're both talking, I will stop in the middle and be like, "We got to do this." So anyway, that'll do it for Top 10 and Famous. Let's take a look at what we got for a NBA trade deadline. So we'll go right into NBA here. After that, the Aints are playing in France in 2026. No one cares. Just kidding. The Cardinals and Raiders are found their coaches. I guess waiting on one, to say the least. Robert Kraft not in the Hall of Fame class of 2026. A lot to discuss in regards to that. And then to round things off, the Kings trade for Panarin from the Rangers. The big news out of the NHL. Non-NBA deal, but an NHL big deal happening. So, that being said, let's get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
And I completely forgot this too. The Gophers men's basketball team, they're taking on number 10 ranked Michigan State. They're beating them. They're destroying them, actually, to be quite honest, at the barn. This team has had a lot of upset victory. They beat Indiana, who's going to be probably in the dance, but they are up 73-68, 21 seconds left in the game. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. So if they can pull off the upset, let's get it. So that'll be fun. All right, let's get it going. Let's try to approve. So why don't you rattle them off for us, please, Foldy.
Well, as we head into the final hours and final days of the NBA trade deadline, there have been a few notable moves as of late within the last 24 hours. Does include, of course, a few notable trades. Of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. heading from Memphis to Utah and a nice 8-player swap with a few draft picks in there. Of course, former Timberwolf Kyle Anderson included in that trade. He's heading his way to Memphis. Also, well, sadly, a former Timberwolf, Mike Conley, got shipped out to Chicago as part of a 3-team trade. The Timberwolves did get some cash considerations, gave up a first-round pick swap with the Detroit Pistons, but Mike Conley is heading his way to the Windy City. That was earlier as of yesterday. Another notable trade did include yesterday James Harden making his way from LA, the Clippers, heading to Cleveland, believe it or not. And of course, another trade that came in earlier today, Anthony Davis heading from his time in the Big D, and we do mean Dallas, heading his way to the DMV, that being in the likes of Washington, with, of course, former Timberwolf D'Angelo Russell also making his way to the DMV area. But Dallas getting in a haul, not only getting, of course, Marvin Bagley III, you get also A.J. Johnson and Chris Middleton, but count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks for that nice 4-player, make that 8-player, 5-pick swap between Washington and Dallas. A couple other notable trades did include Jared McCann. He's heading his way to OKC from Philadelphia, and Mike Conley also got picked up, swung away from Chicago. He's actually now been traded to the likes of the Charlotte Hornets along with Kobe White. So very interesting, as Colin Sexton, the featured piece, that will be heading his way to Chicago. But also, of course, with that included seeing also Lonzo Ball making his way to Utah for Jock Landale in Atlanta on top of all that. But looking here, of course, there's still some notable time left in the NBA trade deadlines. But right now, as where we can currently sit with the trade deadline, who do you see as the biggest winner out of the trade deadline thus far?
Well, it's there's been a lot of trades. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. A lot of kind of head scratchers. Apparently, Chris Paul's going to the Raptors, but I mean, it's crazy because
wild.
But the thing is like when they make these trades, they can opt out. They can be like, "Let me go. I'm gonna go somewhere else," and they can do that. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. But apparently, news is that Mike Conley, if he gets bought out by the Hornets, he could be a free agent. Mm-hmm. Wolves could swipe in and get him back. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Another interesting note, too, Lonzo Ball will become a free agent after the trade that he was in as well. So he's out there, too. I'm not, this is just in case something were to happen. But looking at a lot of these trades, there's been a lot of discussion with the Anthony Davis trade. I just feel like you wonder when he's just going to be like, I'm sick and tired of this. I don't want to keep, up with all this, movement that he's, having to deal with and whatnot. I think he's ready to just be like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I'm going to retire and whatnot. But, the big one that stands out besides that one is the Cleveland one, with them swapping, or with the Clippers getting Harden and whatnot. I just, you know the deal. I said it in our top 10 and famous list. Be careful what you wish for. Thunder got McCain as well. I feel like that was a big one. I don't know why the Bulls traded with the Hornets and given up one of your good players in Kobe White, because I feel like he's been the guy that's, been very good for the Bulls for a while, but he was also in those talks with the Wolves as well. So who knows from that. But one thing I will, to answer your question, though, it's tough. It's really hard for me to say, but I'll say I'm going to go with the Anthony Davis trade, because I feel like the Mavs are trying to right the wrong of trading Luka Doncic. And it really hasn't been going well for him. Nico Harrison was fired. They really haven't had the same team. Guys have gotten hurt. AD's been hurt. Kyrie's been hurt. Whoever else. And it's just been an absolute cluster. The Mavs got Chris Middleton. He's getting old. AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley the third, which, I feel like that was, Bagley I think is going to be all right. D'Lo going to the Wizards. Looking at the Wizards, they could become something. You got Trae Young, you got D'Lo there. I mean, they could make some noise. I don't think they're going to go far with what they have. There's a lot to figure out. So I think it works out more for the Wizards than it does the Mavs. So I'm going to go with that trade. I think that's kind of the big one that I feel like has kind of started off. But again, there might be a big one here any minute or tomorrow. Who knows? But I'll go with that one, Voldy. What do you got?
I look at how this is all really opened up here for the likes of the Charlotte Hornets. I think they've made some very interesting moves. Of course, right now the big question mark is, where do they sit with LaMelo Ball? Do they go and keep him? Do they try and make a move to maybe push them in the right directions? But here's where they are at right now with not only their starting five, but also kind of the depth pieces that they do have. Starting five as of right now: LaMelo Ball, Con Canupul, as well, with Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Musa Diabate as well. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Don't quote me directly on that. And then you also traded for Kobe White, and then you also got Mike Conley too, as of right now. Not really sure how that's going to work out, but you've got some other guys in there, Ryan Kalkbrenner as well. You got Grant Williams on top of it too, with Sion James, also with Josh Green there as their kind of depth pieces there. They've got some young talent there, and they could definitely make some noise here if they can piece it all together. Is kind of really the big thing there. But I really like the moves that they didn't make. Of course, you do have Mike Conley as of right now, not 100% sure his current situation, but getting a guy like Kobe White, a little bit of experience still, could provide, of course, that to that with Ball and Canupul on there too. You got Miles Bridges, is not afraid to throw his weight around for sure down low, but definitely a very interesting trade deadline for them. In Washington also, with picking up, of course, they do get Trae Young, like you said there. They also throw in Anthony Davis to see how he is going to be less injury prone. Don't quote me directly on that, but I'd be very surprised to see if the Hornets don't make a run here in the next year or so, or maybe who even knows? They're only 5 games under 500 right now, 23-28 right now. Trade deadline, see if they're going to pick things up, maybe get a little bit of steam here, but they're definitely trending in the right direction for sure. Just based off the young guys that they do have, they could definitely build off something here for the future.
A lot of things to consider, that is for sure right now. But I do have an update on the Gopher game. They're storming the court, baby! Yeah! Nice! I'm telling you, Medved is doing some awesome things with this squad. I'm very impressed. I know they've kind of had some bumps in the road, but you know what? This is the first year, right? They're going to have, they got to see what they're working with. I think, this is a great start for Nico Medved and the Gophers. So, shouts out to the Gophers. They're storming the court. I love it. So, we'll go from there. Wolves are down 104-91. You're not helping your cause right now. You're not helping your cause so for some of these guys, I'm saying, just saying, for guys that could be traded. So, anyway, that being said, next one, Voldy.
Head to the world of the NFL, of course, with the conclusion of the regular season. Some teams looking forward to not only the draft, but of course the 2026 regular season, which was announced that the New Orleans Saints will be playing the first NFL regular season game in Paris. next season. That will be played at Stade de France, the France national stadium that is going to be the host, of course, as part of the global international games that has included expansion beyond London. Of course, we saw a game in Dublin. We saw a game in Madrid. Of course, we saw games in Brazil. Now we're going further and further out to see how much further. Of course, Germany the last few years has also been quite popular for the games. And of course, with NFL football, now we'll see a game in France coming up next year. Now, the schedule, of course, we know teams that are going to be playing against each other coming up next season. Full NFL schedule be coming down the road here, of course, after the Super Bowl, and of course, probably sometime right around after the draft, and if not during the beginning of, well, definitely before training camp, right around the summer is usually when they announce what these schedules are going to be looking like. But will it be a win, absurd or proved? The Saints will win the game in France coming up here next season.
Well, like you said, I mean, it depends on who they're playing. I mean, if it's like, let's just say, I don't know, Browns maybe. I don't know, depending on how things go. But the Browns are, they're heading in a better direction, or so thinks. Anyway, Tyler Shook has been, good for them. I mean, there's a lot of good things to see from what they've been doing with him. Olave has played well for him, but I feel like they need a lot more pieces before they're going to be contending again. I look at that team and I just feel like they're old. Their defense is old. Demario Davis ain't getting any younger, and that clown Cameron Jordan, who was talking crap again about another quarterback and Josh Allen, that I feel like that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm going to say they're going to lose, just because I'm just kidding. That whole situation, all those guys are gone now, so I don't really have that much hatred for those Aints, but it's still the Aints. I'll say they lose. I don't think they've done well overseas these past few years, even, especially against the Vikings. Double doink! We all know how that ended, but we'll take that any day of the week. I'll say they're going to lose in France, so that they're not going to – whoever they play, I think they're going to lose. I feel like there might be a better team that they're playing. It could be – I don't think it would be a divisional game, if I'm not mistaken. It'd probably be against some AFC team or something. I don't know. Who knows? But, no, I'm going to say absurd. I don't think they win in France next season. So, Foldy, what do you got?
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see just the development from year 1 to year 2 for the Kellen Moore era. What you learned from your first season. Of course, is it going to be Tyler Shough? Do you bring back Spencer Rattler too, with the quarterback room that they do have? I feel like Shough definitely gave them a little bit more at the tail end of last season than we did see with Spencer Rattler, of course, from his second season as a starting quarterback. But you know what? I'll give them the benefit of a doubt. Will they win? I'm going to say, again, it really all depends who they're playing, where. Of course, we know where they're playing. They're playing in France, dummy. What part of the schedule we're looking at? Is it going to be early on? Is it going to be middle portion of the season? Are they winning? Are they losing? Who's their opponent? Too many variables right now to say yes or no, but just to stick it to not even to the Saints. It was really Sean Payton too. I'm going to say no. I don't think they're going to win in France next year. As much as I love Kellen Moore was definitely one of my favorite college players for sure back in the day.
Yeah, it just depends, who they're playing and how it goes, and that whole deal. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, of course, the final round of NFL coaching hires are yet to be set in stone. At least one of the positions is still kind of up in the air, but One was picked up here earlier this week, did include the Arizona Cardinals hiring Mike LaFleur as their head coach. Of course, the former offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, and of course, brother of Matt LaFleur, who's the head coach of the Green Bay Packers. Mike, under the likes of the tutelage of one Sean McVay, is going to be making the steps as head coach for the Arizona Cardinals. That has got a few problems here and there on that offensive side, so hopefully that will help things out after a former defensive-minded head coach was at the helm in previous years. Now, on the other side of things, one position that is still yet to be fully finalized, but things are trending in the right direction, is the Las Vegas Raiders and their head coaching hire, quite possibly offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks, that being Clint Kubiak. Of course, now Kubiak is coming in as, of course, in his fifth team in as many years for Kubiak's first year as OC for the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, the turnaround that they've had with the strong play of Sam Darnold, and of course Kubiak being the son of former Denver Broncos coach Gary Kubiak. Now, of course, with Kubiak being the OC for the Seahawks right now, nothing officially finalized as of yet, and of course still one game to be played for the Seahawks, that being in the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. But given with that potentially Kubiak being the head coach for the Raiders and LaFleur for sure being a head coach for the Arizona Cardinals, absurd or approved, both coaches would finish above 500 next season with their new squads.
Well, I will say, let's start with the Cards. The Cards have just been, they haven't been good. Kyler, it's an ongoing saga. I think they're going to move on from him unless Mike LaFleur comes in and says, I can fix him and this and that and whatnot. I feel like it's going to take time. I think it's absurd. I don't think they will go above 500 next year. I think it's going to be a really rebuilding process for the Arizona Cardinals because they desperately need it, to be quite honest. I mean, obviously, you have Marvin Harrison Jr., who's a beast, and the thing is they got to find ways to get him the ball. Jacoby Brissett, are you going to keep him as a backup, or I don't know if they're going to roll with him, but there's a lot of things that need fixing in Arizona, and their secondary is okay. That's not bad. Their pass rush isn't great. The Cardinals are going to have it rough, I feel like, for the first season, but they might come together here soon. Sooner than you think. Maybe towards the end of the season. We'll see. Let's go to the Raiders. Look, the Raiders are they're a bad football team right now. They're just a really bad football team. It's sounding like Max Crosby has already talked to people wanting out and whatnot, and I think they've kind of accepted that he's probably going to get traded. Clint Kubiak's going to have to do a lot of moving around. And when you have Tom Brady backing you, too, with this and the football side of things, I think that'll help a lot for Clint Kubiak. I think Clint Kubiak's done a fantastic job with Sam Darnold and that offense this season. And, we'll see what happens here in the playoffs. Or not in the playoffs. Oh, my God. Well, technically, I guess, but in the Super Bowl. Excuse me. But I'm very intrigued to see what he does because, he was offensive coordinator for maybe a couple games for the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. And he wasn't bad. I mean, I thought he did a good job, but when you have Zim under your thumb, oh boy, that's a whole other thing. So I just don't see those teams, being that good quickly, being playoff teams. I think it's absurd. I don't think either team are going to be good right away. It's going to be a rebuilding process. I mean, the Raiders, oh, God. I mean, where do you start with the Raiders? So, Cardinals, I feel like maybe have a chance, too, because they still got some guys on there. But I'll go with absurd. I don't think they will. So, Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, there's a lot that has to be set up officially, of course, with the Raiders on the side of things. If you are going to get Kubiak as your head coach, let's also not forget that they have the first overall pick. Of course, probably going to go for the quarterback, and of course, that being Mendoza at the top of the draft boards for everybody. And of course, him being an offensive minded coach and help develop a young quarterback could be quite beneficial for them. But what about everything else? You've got a disgruntled defense led by, of course, a premier pass rusher, and he's still upset besides the fact that he got his money in Max Crosby. Of course, conversations taking place that he might end up getting traded this offseason, quite possibly to the Patriots, keeping my fingers crossed there. But on the other side for the Cardinals, too, it's probably going to be another transitionary play. Do you give up on Kyler Murray? Do you give him another season with a new head coach, this time being an offensive-minded coach with, of course, Mike LaFleur? Or do you just cut bait and go on somewhere else, see what you can get for Kyler Murray? If not, just let him go outright altogether. I mean, Marvin Harrison, fully healthy. Is he going to be a premier threat for that running attack, for that passing attack for the Cardinals? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks there, especially in a couple of divisions that are very front heavy, if you will, with the NFC West and the AFC West. These two teams that have new head coaches, and at the bottom, of course, or I should say at the top of the draft boards, probably not going to see a lot of success right off the bat. I'm going to say absurd as well. Don't see a lot of conducive things as of right now for them to garner immediate success.
Yeah, these teams will struggle. I mean, it's gonna take a little bit before they're gonna be back in consideration. So we'll see. Next one, Voldy.
Mm-hmm. Well, another report coming out here with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and it looks like that in his first year of eligibility, at least first time on the finalist ballot, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft will be not getting his name into the halls of Canton, Ohio, as part of the class of 2026. Now, the NFL honors are set to announce the finalists and the class of 2026 for the Pro Football Hall of Fame coming up tomorrow night. But reports coming out here in the last 24 hours saying that Robert Kraft, along with his former head coach Bill Belichick, were not selected in for entry of this year's Hall of Fame class. Now, again, this is another situation. I don't remember in years past that finalists of certain magnitudes that were or were not going to be leaked out and made mention of to the Hall of Fame. And yet, these two guys, Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, apparently in their first years of prominent eligibility, saying that, yeah, no, you're not getting in, just based off of maybe whether it be personal jealousies or what have you, but nonetheless, they will not be entered into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Of course, being selected by the committee, 40 of the 50 votes needed to get in. Now, of course, with the conversations taking place that we had last week about Bill Belichick, of course, his former employer, now Robert Kraft, being in the finalist run this season, of course, in his first year being a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Is it absurd or approved? Is Robert Kraft a Hall of Famer?
Well, the first ballot thing, I feel like, it was kind of expected almost for this specific one. I wouldn't have been shocked if he got it because, he hired Belichick. He is the guy that went and got Belichick, and look what they did together. There's no denying it. But I think what factored in here, and again, this is how I kind of look at it too, is, the whole situation with the massage parlor deal and whatnot, I feel maybe had some influence on that too. I'm not 100% sure. I don't, who knows what goes on in those, behind the scenes meetings. Do I think he's first ballot? I'd say so. He's an owner that clearly, changed the whole trajectory of that franchise. They had Drew Bledsoe. He was all right. They made a couple of appearances in the Super Bowl, but they never really got it done. Well, enter Bill Belichick, you're winning at least 6 of those. So it just kind of shows like I don't know what goes on, in those meetings, and it's crazy to me that they're not putting in guys that clearly have changed the game of football in the sense of dynasties and things like that. Is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, it's got my stamp of approval. I would say he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, without him, you don't have Bill Belichick. You don't have that pedigree that you were hoping. I mean, now that you have Mike Vrabel, you might win 7. I mean, that's crazy to me. The continued success. I think he should have went in. I think it's absurd that he wasn't in as first ballot, but you know what? The Belichick thing I think is crazy in itself, but thanks to Jordan Hudson, well, it was a pretty tough situation from the start. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Stamp of approval for sure. Voldy, what do you got?
Again, another situation. When has the early leak and or release of potential Hall of Fame inductees, whether they make it or not, been released? I cannot remember the last time of such notable names that, or anybody for that matter, saying, oh yeah, they're not going to make the Hall of Fame this year, maybe next year, or maybe years down the road. But again, this is probably the first that I can certainly remember of 2 guys that were up for Hall of Fame induction that were told and informed, yeah, you're not going to make it. Again, this is all very weird and auspicious of how this information is getting out. In years past, we wouldn't know who made the Hall of Fame until they started announcing who was getting in the Hall of Fame that night, and we'd be surprised as anybody. But the fact that we've known Bill Belichick's not getting in for a week plus, and now, well, of course, Robert Kraft not getting in here in the last 24 hours, and those 2 guys as prominent members of not only the New England Patriots, but of course, as the NFL as a whole. Of course, with Robert Kraft buying the New England Patriots back in 1994, 6 Super Bowl championships as well, looking for a 7th coming up here on Sunday. Again, the numbers speak for themselves, and I just don't understand why this information continues to get out at such a time where, basically they're kicking a guy while he's down right now, or at least trying to rain on the parade of what is happening here for a franchise that, is playing well above its weight right now. And especially given the fact that they're playing for another Super Bowl championship, when most people coming into the season didn't even think that they would make the playoffs. And if they did, they thought, oh, they'll probably make a wild card and go from that point. Is Robert Kraft a Hall of Famer? 10,000%. Yes, it is a stamp of approval for me.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't, to be quite honest, from you specifically. So, the numbers speak for themselves. It's that simple. All right, last one, Voldy.
Well, of course, as the NHL season is about to be put on a pause for the Winter Olympics coming up here, that'll be actually the opening ceremony coming up here Friday night. The Los Angeles Kings have acquired forward Artemi Panarin, the bread man from the dwindling and god-awful New York Rangers today, as they exchange him for a prospect, Liam Greentree, and a conditional 3rd-round pick in 2026 and a conditional 4th-round pick in 2028. Now, also with the trade coming through, the Kings and Panarin also signed a 2-year extension worth an average of just $11 million through 2027-2028. Now, this deal did come in as the NHL Olympic roster freeze, which runs through February 22nd began. So literally right down to the wire here, as Panarin, who will unfortunately not be participating in the Winter Olympics as he hails from the mother Russia country as a whole, and of course still being banned by the International Ice Hockey Federation, but will be getting used to the sun and surf, if you will, of Los Angeles during that time while everybody else is representing their country. Now, with this trade taking place here, Panarin is still very much a primetime player, especially with the Rangers being as god-awful as they've been the last couple of seasons. Is it absurd or proof? With the Kings trading and signing Panarin to an extension, the Kings will be serious contenders in the Western Conference.
I think you have to consider it. I feel like the Kings are always using, trying to get as much talent as they can. I mean, be in the playoff hunt per se. And I think with this trade, I mean, you're getting a player that's been quite good for a long time too, and putting that much confidence, especially signing that extension, I think is solidifying the Kings being contenders. Now, I don't see them beating the Wild. I can tell you that right now. Speaking of which, I thought they're down 4-3 right now. It's only the second period, but we'll keep an eye on that. But at the same time, like, the Kings just kind of they're always in it, right? They're always like one step, one player away or something like that. And they're in the mix always. So I think this is a really good move by them just to get a guy that's getting off of a terrible hockey team in the New York Rangers and adding the Breadman to LA and the sunny skies, and I think he'll enjoy it. So I think they will. I'll give it my stamp of approval. But I just feel like there's a lot of really good teams right now in the Western Conference, especially when you got the Avalanche, when you have the Stars into the mix as well. It's going to be tough to beat those teams, and the Wild for that instance too. So, Voldy, what do you got?
Yeah, sitting where they are right now, the Kings sitting at they're right now fifth in their division right now, 23, 17, and 14, 60 points on the season. But, just looking at where they would sit in the wild card standings, I mean, they've got a lot of ground to make up for sure to be, considered in that mix there too. I mean, they're on the outside looking in for sure, but getting a guy like Panarin, of course, the way that the season has gone for the Rangers in the last couple seasons too, things have not been good in New York. And I think getting a guy like Panarin off their books is beneficial for them to hopefully turn a new chapter. But for the Kings, too, I mean, they've certainly been in it. They've found ways to get into the playoffs the last couple of years, and especially taking the, Edmonton Oilers, who have been to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals. They've taken them all the way to the brink in the opening round the last couple of years, too, and it's just been very tough to see how they've fallen on the short end, especially with so many guys that they've got coming up. Of course, they do have Quentin Byfield, who's definitely been a guy that they wanted to see kind of step up here in the last couple of seasons. Kevin Fiala is a guy that they signed a few years ago, former Wild legend, to really be that face of that team too. And, they've got some guys that are in the right position. They just need a guy to really make that next step forward. Of course, this being the final season for Anze Kopitar as well, after the great run he's had with the Stanley Cups. And, him being on the back end of his career for sure, he's hanging them up after the season. You'd think getting a guy like Panarin into the mix there, that they could certainly try to make a run at a playoff spot, if not give one last go here before, things probably start to fall apart and they start to go with that youth movement, if not more of a rebuild that they have out in that very loaded Western Conference, especially out in the Pacific Division too.
Speaking of the Kings, I was just curious. I put in Google, Voldy, where Jeff Carter is. He is retired. I did not know that. Oh my gosh. Well, another legend that was around for a long time. Jeff Carter. Mr. Partier. Oh, so good. But anyway, I think they got a lot of ground to cover, that's for sure. So we'll see how the Kings do the rest of the way. Speaking of Erik Haula, he scored against the Wild just now for the Preds. So, damn it. Oh, well. So 4-3 right now. A lot of time left. Wolves down by 2 now, so they've made up some ground. Down by 2, and we'll see what happens. But great job with the ARA this week, Voldy. We got a shield. We got shield shout out tonight. A very special shield shout out tonight. So let's get it going with some shield shout outs.
Shield shoutouts.
All right, it is time for Shield shoutouts. So, Shield, who ya shout out tonight?
Well, we do have one Shield shout out here for this week, and sadly, it has been confirmed. Of course, with the end of a NFL regular season, of course, players looking on with maybe giving it one last go for another season, or maybe looking to transition in life. Sadly, the Minnesota Vikings will be without one of their players that has been a fixture of the Minnesota Vikings in his time in the purple and gold. That going to Duluth Denfeld grad, former Augustana Vikings running back, and Minnesota Vikings fullback. CJ Ham officially announced his retirement from the NFL. Of course, we did see the regular season come to an end for the Vikings in that, of course, week 18 matchup that they did, of course, get a win to make it 5 in a row. CJ Ham did get 1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown to finish off his career, but officially did announce that he will be hanging up his cleats. And we certainly do say thank you for everything that you've done for the Vikings since getting onto the team here. Of course, working your way up from special teams to being a fullback, and of course at times serving in that backup running back spot as well, providing big help, and of course in stalwarts of the running game, and just continue to be a great member of the Vikings team, being a team captain, being a fixture in the community, of course, with his being a Walter Payton Man of the Year award nominee for the Vikings for a handful of years. And we certainly do appreciate all of that, but we would certainly greatly appreciate your time and effort, of course, to come on the show as well. We certainly do hope that we can make that happen here in the future from a couple of Division II students. We'd love to talk to a Division II student athlete, of course, with Augustana always beating the crap out of Southwest back in the day on the football field as well. And that'll do it for Shield shoutouts this week.
Oh, I love it. And, he was such a guy you could rely on all the time for Minnesota Vikings, even before that with Augustana. We've seen games where he's absolutely ran over our Mustangs. And but shout out to CJ Ham. Congratulations. He's going to be soccer dad. So shouts out to him. Yes, we will try and find time to get him on the show. We threw it out there in the social medias and in our story for his retirement. So hopefully he saw it. We'll get it going. So great job with Shield shoutouts this go around to Voldy as always. And guys, before we even get into the whole merch stuff like we usually do, just FYI. Yeah, MinneZona's 6th annual Super Bowl special. Look at that. Warriors. There it is. Patriots, Drake May, Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, and the Seahawks. It's going to be a great game. We're looking forward to it. You'll get our picks, even though it probably is spoiled from the hat that Voldy is wearing, but how can you blame him? At this point? So we will have our Super Bowl special. It'll start at 2 o'clock on Sunday, getting you ready for Super Bowl Sunday, Super Bowl 60. You never know who might show up, who will be on, who will chat with us. You shall see. So a lot to consider for sure. With the Super Bowl coming up. Hopefully you guys will join us. It'll be a great time as always. We're looking forward to having another fun show on the Super Bowl, 6th annual. So we're looking forward to it. All right. With that being said, guys, we got the merch. And FYI, I forgot to mention too. Speaking of Super Bowl Sunday, you guys know what to do. We will be sending out a form for you guys to fill out. Who's winning? What's the score going to be? The closest person that gets the score right, or whoever, I think might win some merch. I believe. We got options. We got some options. You'll find out what it is at some point here this week. So we will keep you up to date on that. Speaking of merch, if you're just like, I want to help out the guys, I want to do some stuff. Well, we got hats. As you can see, I've been wearing this Wolves inspired MinneZona Sports Life hat that is available, and as well as these as well. Take a look at those. Yes, Minnesota Wild, Vikings, Gophers. Check it out. We've got the hats. We got plenty of the hats. Got the OG hats, the camo. The American flag one, I think we got one left, if I'm not mistaken. Or are we out? Do we know? I'm not sure.
I think we got at least one, if not
One.
two.
Okay.
Yeah. One. We got at least one.
Yeah. So we got those. We got those nice hats. We got the other secondary Minnesota Vikings one as well. And the Minnesota Twins one, but, you'll see what will come into consideration with that one, too. So keep an eye out for that. We got the sweatpants. We're low on those, so if you guys want sweatpants, get them while they're hot. As well, stickers, you know the deal. So thank you to National Fleet Graphic for the stickers. Shout out to our guy, Will Rattel, W2 Performance at www.w2performance.com. The Brotherly Ballers Podcast, Tyler Herman, Jack Vickers, and TLS Performance. Our guy, Troy Stoudemire Jr., doing awesome things as per usual. Shout out to the Popcorn Bucket List, Nick Dolph and Ryan Meyerberg as well. Omni Entertainment. Make sure you check out those guys as well. They've got everything in regards to movies, reviews, the whole deal. So make sure you check those guys out, and that's going to do it for episode 271. I'd say we'll see you next week, but we'll see you Sunday for our Super Bowl special. Sunday. There it is. Yes, it's in San Fran. Super Bowl 60, Seahawks, Patriots. It's going to be a great one. So can't wait to see you guys on Sunday. And as always, remember, folks, get in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.